Chapter 60:19. Royce felt extremely aggrieved. But the grievance was a grievance. Facing his furious father, he did not dare to say even one more word. So, without saying a word, the father and son came to the family meeting room one after another. In this conference room that resembles a medieval European palace, almost all family members are already present. However, the old man has not come yet. Everyone knows that today must be the day when the old man passes the throne to Steve. After the old man announces it, Steve will officially become the leader of the entire Rothschild family. Therefore, although everyone has ugly expressions, but they also thought in hearts that they would try their best to please Steve as much as possible later. From now on, everyone's resource income, as well as the power of life and death, will be in Steve's hands. Seeing the arrival of Steve and Royce, everyone, without exception, stood up from their seats. The feeling was very similar to the solemn feeling when generals see the commander during a military meeting. Steve's younger brothers all gathered around him eagerly and greeted him diligently. Steve felt unhappy when he saw the false and flattering expressions of several people. But he still nodded to everyone very politely. David Rothschild, the youngest brother, said very attentively, "Brother, I wanted to visit you last night, but your housekeeper said you would not accept guests behind closed doors. Tonight, you have to give this brother a chance no matter what. I have prepared some small gifts and want to deliver them to your house personally." Steve sneered and said, "David, you are really interested, but how can I have the nerve to ask you to spend money?" David said hurriedly, "Brother, what else can you be polite to me about? We are brothers and sisters. You have loved me the most since we were children." Seeing David kneeling down and licking him first, the others didn't fall behind for a moment and hurriedly tried to trick Steve. Steve watched these people's performances calmly, feeling increasingly sober. He knew that once the old man failed to pass on the position of clan leader to him, these people would immediately change their attitude, and they would definitely fight openly and secretly with him again. In order to try their best to win the good impression of the old man and win the opportunity to replace him as the heir. Therefore, as long as they cannot succeed to the throne today, these younger brothers will still strive to replace him. They will regard him as their biggest competitor and will never really bow. At this time, the door of the conference room was pushed open. Everyone immediately followed the sound and saw the old butler opening the door of the conference room. Then, the old man Simon walked in with light steps. When everyone saw Simon walking in, everyone was stunned. Most people here have seen the old man suffering from a stroke, so they thought that the old man would have to be in a wheelchair and pushed in when he appeared today. But who would have thought that after not seeing him for one night, the old man would be completely sick? However, they were shocked. Seeing that the old man looked as good as ever, these people all breathed a sigh of relief without exception. In the Rothschild family, except for Steve's family who hope that the old man will die soon. Everyone else hopes that the old man will be healthy. For these family members who are not destined to become heirs, their lives are best when the old man is healthy and in power. Once the old man becomes ill or dies, they will be purged and reduced by the new patriarch. David reacted the fastest. 1 second, he was surrounding Steve and seizing the closest and best position to Steve. The next second, he had already jumped the crowd and ran toward Simon quickly. "Father!" David took the lead and rushed to Simon. He immediately supported Simon's arm with his arm and said nervously, "Father, why did you come here on your own? There is nothing wrong with your body. Are you there?" Those sons who were still surrounding Steve suddenly came to their senses, and each of them couldn't help but curse in their hearts that the guy on David's neck, who was younger than them, was quick to react. They also left Steve in place and quickly gathered in front of Simon. Royce on the side witnessed with his own eyes what a textbook-level wallflower was. This group of people had just gathered in front of his father, so much so that he, his son, couldn't squeeze through. But now, this group of people all crowded in front of Grandpa. And Father stood there alone, which actually seemed a bit lonely. When Simon saw these sons, they all ran to him with excitement on their faces, and he couldn't help but feel relieved. When he was still in the medical center just now, he had already been touched by the filial piety of his eldest son. Now that he saw that the other sons cared about him so much, he was moved and felt a little complacent. He felt that he was still a good father. It was quite successful, and the sons were filial to each other. So, with a fatherly smile on his face, he announced to everyone in a sonorous and powerful voice, "I want to tell you good news. My body has fully recovered." After hearing this, these children and grandchildren, although he doesn't know why I can recover from a stroke so quickly, but he is so excited that he can't add anything to it. David couldn't help but ask, "Father, you called us for a meeting here just because you wanted to give us a surprise in person?" Simon smiled slightly and said, "Absolutely. This time I use some extraordinary means to be able to do it like this. Recovering in a short time." At this point, Simon's expression gradually became serious and he said sternly, "So you must remember that no one is allowed to mention the stroke to the outside world. Once I know that someone leaks the news, no matter what whoever he is, I will expel him from the Rothschild family." After hearing this, everyone's heart suddenly trembled. For the Rothschild family, expulsion from the family is the highest and most severe punishment. Although the old man has used cruel words before, this is the first time that he has used the highest level of cruel words indiscriminately. Except for Steve, everyone realized with joy that the reason why the old man didn't want the outside world to know that he had had a stroke was probably because he wanted to turn this incident into an unknown episode and make the outside world feel like there was an internal upheaval within the Rothschild family. Since he doesn't want others to see the fluctuations, it proves that the old man definitely wants to continue to serve as the patriarch. As a result, everyone nodded in surprise and vowed to never reveal this matter. Otherwise, they were willing to accept all punishments. Simon nodded slightly with satisfaction, and then he came to the head of the huge conference table and sat down. The other children and grandchildren also hurriedly came to stand next to the seats on his left and right sides. Simon stretched out his hand and motioned for everyone to sit down, and then everyone carefully moved their seats and sat down. Although there were dozens of people present, in the entire conference room, apart from the sound of clothes rubbing against each other, there was almost no other movement. Everyone kept their mouths closed and did not dare to make any sound, and they did not even dare to pull up their chairs. Instead, they have to move it carefully, move it to the rear to give the space you need, and then carefully put it back on the woolen carpet. During the entire process, the chair will not make any sound. This is a rule that Simon has set in the family long ago, and it is still respected by everyone. Seeing how meticulous and cautious everyone was, Simon felt very comfortable and satisfied. This was the charm of the position of patriarch to him. Seeing that everyone sat down carefully and straightened their backs without slacking off, Simon said with great satisfaction, "The main reason I called everyone to the meeting today is to announce something." Hearing this, everyone stared intently. Looking at Simon, whether Steve can succeed will be revealed at this moment. Only Steve himself knows that the possibility of him succeeding today is 0. At this time, Simon cleared his throat and said very seriously, "I announce that from today on, Steve will officially become the first heir of the Rothschild family. And Royce will become the second-in-line heir of the family. And I, while I can still move, will spend the rest of my time trying my best to lead the family to a higher position."